Chase was running for all she was worth when she heard the sound of her doom approaching. Branches cracked and crackled behind her, and she didn't look back. She knew what she would see, and any seconds a backward glance would cost would be seconds she couldn't replace. Instead, Chase kept her precious burden close to her chest and forced her legs to go faster, eyes straining to pick out obstacles in the path ahead. Though path was beyond generous here. She was fleeing through the deep woods now, places that had long been without people to keep the trees restrained. The game trails that wound between them were barely wide enough for her. Her pursuers didn't have that problem. They didn't use the trails, and the wide branches overhead were strong enough to support their swarming forms. They were small, smaller even than Chase, but they were legion. And they were hungry. Furthermore, they had very, very sharp teeth, so Chase ran, which wasn't at all what she was made to do because Chase was a Harven. Harvens are small, pudgy, and have a disposition that rewards sedentary pursuits. They usually dwell in farming communities, eat prodigiously, and avoid things like adventure and life-and-death struggles at all costs. Which made Chase all the more freakish, because she had too many dreams and not enough chances of fulfilling them in her home. She'd left her home a shambles, skipped town with a known liar and rascal, and broken the law 4 times over in order to accomplish all of this. She hadn't even told her mother goodbye. Mind you, there had been extenuating circumstances. A flash of red, a ribbon tied to a tree, and Chase swerved toward it, taking the left-hand fork in the path. She almost missed, seeing the cord stretched between the trees, but caught it in time to execute a quick hop. Perception, +1. She was mildly surprised that she had gained perception instead of agility, but as her eyes and hearing sharpened just a bit, she wasn't too upset at the help. More perception meant less chance of falling into the traps. And she had gained a point of agility just yesterday. The rules which governed reality in general seemed to dictate that it took more work to increase your attributes the further up you got. But now was not the time for that. Chase hugged her burden tighter, feeling the comforting warmth as she charged through the fallen leaves, sending them upward in a spray. They were gaining on her now. The rustling was coming from either side, not just behind her. Right on her heels, pushing themselves to leap down upon the tasty meal that awaited, ready to swarm down in a fury of teeth and claws. Then another tripwire loomed out between a pair of bushes, and she was moving too quickly to dodge it. But her feet went right through it, and she stumbled in surprise, but recovered. Illusion, Chase knew. I won't get that lucky twice. Some of the traps were illusions, some weren't. Not that it mattered, since she jumped the rest of the trip lines she saw, and as her legs ached and her breath burned in her chest from the last leap, she got a consolation prize for all her hard work. Constitution, +1. Some of her exhaustion eased, and she pushed herself harder. But it wasn't working. Above her, her foes chattered, sharp and shrill. They smelled victory. They would not relent. And then, as Chase burst into a clearing, the way ahead split down 2 paths, both flagged with ribbons, and both blocked off by tarps strung between the trees. They looked identical. They moved identically in the cold breeze. One is an illusion, Chase knew, and hesitated, slowed for a second. Then a branch creaked right behind her, and she had no more time to hesitate. That one, she guessed, and darted forward, put on a last burst of speed, and ran headlong into the slightly stretched tarp. Chase had a fleeting second to regret her choice as the tarp stretched out, then rebounded, hurtling her back, and sending the pie in her arms straight to the ground, splattering fruit and crust in a wide arc. The exhausted Harven closed her eyes as smushed strawberries rained down on her face. Her pointed ears furled in shame as the horde behind her descended and started to gorge their faces, arguing over the sweet treat. Then came wet, raspy heat on her face and a strong odor of unwashed fur, and Chase opened her eyes to glare at the monkeys who had gone for the lower-hanging fruit, so to speak, and were licking her face clean. "Shoo!" she said, waving a hand. They scattered, scolding her in incoherent babble, then surged in again to get the last few licks of strawberry from her hair. She sighed and let them, staring up at the sky. A sky that was soon obscured by a shadow, a silhouette of a man, as he peered down at her, face friendly but unsympathetic. It was a sharp face, with angular cheekbones and a pointy goatee, but it was softened a bit by his handlebar moustaches, and his snazzy red and black top hat clung jauntily to his head, defying gravity as he bent over and offered her a hand up. "You are doing pretty well this time," Tomasi Jacobi Venturi said, hauling Chase to her feet. "You made it to the finish line, at least." Behind him, the other tarp disappeared, and a plush fox toy walked out from behind the illusion. "No, she made it to the fake finish line," he said. His name was Rennie, and he was the second co-conspirator in the most black-hearted of operations, Operation Toughen Up the Haven.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.